So Jeremy Giddings is our next speaker coming up. Jeremy is with Irrigation. He's a regional manager in the Mallee region with Ag Victoria. He brings specialised knowledge in irrigation systems and water management practices to discuss, and he'll discuss irrigation for Pistachio today. Thank you, Jeremy. We have a talk for you.
Thank you, thanks for the opportunity. I was just asked to talk about irrigation. I'm sure you've heard of it, I hope. But some aspects we can talk about are of interest.
Can't hear.
There's nothing to hear. Is this on?
Yeah, it's very frustrating actually. And you have to talk really, really close.
Is that better?
Make out you're in karaoke, Jez. Get on with it, buddy.
And I've got the flu. Okay, so I've been in Mildura for 30 years with either Ag Vic or New South Wales Ag doing irrigation training and irrigation research and that sort of stuff. And I guess they asked me to talk about irrigation, just some things I think might be interesting. You tell me in a moment. But certainly the drip irrigation issues around uniformity, maintenance, system drainage is a real issue for tree crops. Maybe a little bit on satellite imagery, a little bit on what's happened in the dry winter, a little bit on fertigation, and hopefully a little bit more on possible irrigation training to the pistachio industry in the future. So it doesn't matter whether you've got drippers or under tree sprinklers, uniformity is so important, and it's not hard to measure, and you don't have to be an irrigation engineer to do these sorts of things. Pressure and discharge are so important because irrigation, unless it's even, you're really struggling. And if we're trying to be efficient, we're trying to do things right, it's fundamental to have this nice even irrigation application across the orchard. If it isn't, things like this happen. So this is a girl for a PhD measured dripper discharge across a vineyard, and we've got this green submain on the left hand side here. Some of you might have seen this before. We've got an application of 4.7 millimetres at this end and only 3.7 at the other end. And in the past we thought that's close enough, and our recommendation was just to apply more water to make up for the dry stuff, the dry patch. Now we say fix the uniformity. Water is too valuable, energy is too valuable, all those things. So fix the uniformity is a fundamental thing, and it's so fundamental for good irrigation management. Those numbers don't sound like a lot of difference to you, but over a season, and this is for vines in around Griffith, we've got 4.5 megalitres being applied here and 3.5 down the other end. And for tree crops with larger applications, that difference from one end to the other will be even larger. So 1 megalitre is 100 millimetres. 1 megalitre a hectare is 100 millimetres. It's about 10 millimetre applications. So there's 10 less irrigation events going on to that crop down the other end. And if you're fertigating, and you should be, well, the uniformity of fertiliser is a function of the uniformity of the water, and we've got 23 kilos a hectare of N going on near the submain and only 18 at the other end. So that variation gets exacerbated, and it's very hard to manage. And there's enough sources of variation in horticulture due to soil types and leaky dams or native trees pinching water from the boundaries and that sort of stuff. This is a source of variation you can control. And so we've been pretty big on that for a long time now, about trying to make it nice and even. A fellow nut crop industry has recognised this, and we've gone out and measured about 50 almond orchards in the 3 growing regions, measured their irrigation performance, and the industry standard for dripper uniformity is plus or minus 5% across an orchard, and that's that orange line there. And as you can see, about 80% of the participants have a system that is greater than that industry standard, okay, and some quite significantly, 35% plus or minus. So that's 70% variation. It's plus or minus 35, and the total variation is 70. So a huge problem for some. To have that good performance, many things have got to be right, but certainly it's got to be designed well initially. You can't make it better after it's designed. We need to have the pressures set and maintained appropriately, and we've got to do the system maintenance, so flushing, chlorine, peroxide, acid possibly, hopefully not, filter maintenance, that sort of thing, and that's a whole topic and a whole discussion and a whole workshop in itself.
Jeremy, you know that previous map? So the previous one you had there.
That one?
No, go to the next one. Sorry, the
Previous?
The graph. Sorry, the 35%.
Variation
The
line.
graph.
Yeah, graph.
Whoops.
Sorry, mate. I'm a South Australian. We talked drugs there about 35%. So was that maintenance, or did you know what they were?
Yeah, probably a lack of maintenance. There's no relationship between age of the system. We had some very good 30-year-old drip systems that were maintained really well, and some ordinary 3-year-old systems. So
Doesn't take long, does it?
yeah. First year, if it's not done, we see a decline due to biofilm growth and whatever
Okay.
in the system. Yeah. And while you're there, Ben, the blue lines are pressure compensated drippers, which should be distributing the same amount of water regardless of the pressure. And the yellow is non-PC. So we've got some pretty good PC operators right over there on the right, and the inverse as well. There's a lot more interest, so we're interested in, for drippers at least, keeping these drippers clean. Your livelihood is reliant on these things that are about this big, okay, and we've got to keep them clean and functioning. So there's a lot more interest in flushing now, there's a lot more interest in chemical injections, and we've moved on, I think I had it here, moved on a little bit from chlorine and peroxide, people injecting peroxide here. Which is a really good product, and here we have some filters that are pretty dirty, and there's also a trend towards continuous injection, not 1 to 4 times a year, but every irrigation. Maybe change things around fertigation events, but we've seen very good results with continuous injection at 2 to 5 parts, something like that, out of a shuttle. And keeping things very clean, because we had some dirty rivers on the Murray, dirty river for the last couple of years, and also a greater acknowledgement that we've got to keep this application rate uniform. Any comments with that? Any questions?
What about screen filter, what you just do it?
Same thing.
Are you injecting into that?
Yes. I'm pretty sure. I honestly haven't seen it, but I won't see why not. No, we're injecting before the filters.
You got everything in off anyway.
Yeah, well there's some things, algae sometimes, the screen filters aren't so good, but we've got people injecting pre-filter in disc and gravel, and I don't see why not for screen. Anyone injecting through the screen? I'll find out.
Does it work with Rise? Do you know anything about Rhizora?
Yeah, well that's what that one is contributing. Yeah, and that's another thing, it's temperature related and things are getting hotter, so it's another reason why continuous injection is certainly an option for people at low concentrations.
How much do you think is water quality related there? Is that, I've always believed it's getting worse and worse. But
It's getting worse in the last couple of years, so we think it's either temperature and water quality since the flood.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, but the response has been, let's do something
Yeah, you got
about
to
it.
do more, yeah.
The question, do you find that growers in the Riverland that are further downstream have more issues with dirty filters than perhaps they would upstream?
I'd ask the audience.
South Australia's got beautiful water, mate.
But does it translate into practical problems?
I think it's probably worse in South Australia. I mean, as you go to the Lower Lake area, it's probably worse.
But you would think so. But I haven't heard of filtration standards having to be higher in South Australia than they are in Mallee. Haven't heard of that. The other challenge for irrigation is this sort of thing, especially for tree crops. System drainage. So up until now I've been talking about trying to keep the system even during operation. When it's operating, we want all those emitters emitting 1.6 litres an hour or something like that. But what happens when you switch off? Hold it up. What happens when we switch off? All that effort to try and get an even system is thrown out the window if we've got system drainage. So what's happening here, once we've switched off, the water that's remaining in the pipe has got to go somewhere, and it goes to the lowest point. So it comes out of the submain, goes down the laterals, and keeps emitting. And so if you're pulsing, we've measured the emitter is at the end of the line or in the lowest spots, continuing to emit between pulses and continuing to emit for 24 hours after the last pulse. And it adds up and it adds up, and it's in the heavier soil types, and we were talking about disease earlier with wet feet and whatever, and we see these issues in those locations. So this is a real problem, and all our efforts to chlorinate and peroxide and whatever to keep a system nice and even gets thrown out the window once we turn off. And if we're pulsing, it's exacerbated. It was never a problem Sorry?
D&L will stop that.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a system design thing a lot of the time, isn't it? A lot of these.
Yeah, or retrofit. We'll get to that.
Retrofitting, yeah. That's what I found anyway.
So it was never a problem in the past when we were conventionally irrigating a couple of times a week. Now that we irrigate every day and we're pulsing, it's 5 to 7 times a day. There's a drainage event 5 to 7 times a day every day, so that's 35, 40 drainage events a week, and it all adds up. So that's just a stylised thing, especially for older designs with larger flushing submains. If the valve was installed in the high point, we've got the low point down here. All this water drains down the submain, drains down the lateral, and it also exacerbates and redistributes itself in the lowest point in the flushing submain and ends up down that bottom corner. Like you said, there are hydraulic answers to this sort of thing: drip lines, D&Ls, C&Ls, non-return valves, slave valves, that sort of stuff. Is Andrew here?
Barry.
Fella in the middle, show pony. He's been great for us at getting the almond industry to try and fix this issue. It is a water-saving result, and there's not too many of those left. There is a water-saving benefit out of trying to keep this thing uniform once you switch off as well. And in the almond industry, we've measured over a season it's between 2 and 3 megs extra being applied to those wet patches. So they might have been putting on 12 and it becomes 15, okay, in those particular locations. Any other comments with that? Questions? So fundamental, it's got to be uniform to make us get anywhere. A couple of things, satellite imagery is getting a little bit more interest. There's some different options here. Irrisat is a Google Earth based bit of software that's free. You just need a Gmail account, you find your property on the map and draw a polygon around it. And I don't know if you can see, but that up in the top left hand corner there's more orange. So this is a drip system that we thought there were problems with, skinny little under-designed drip, and they weren't really emitting as well as they should be up on the left-hand side, the top left-hand side, and Irrisat with satellite imagery and sort of indicating crop health showed that, back that up. So that might be an option, and as a first cut to try and have a look at certainly large orchards. It's pretty simple, just draw a polygon around your patches and in a couple of minutes it'll spit out some data, and it goes back 20 years. And I went back on this farm and went back many years, and it's been an issue for that grower for a long time. And Ceres is the other one, which is more commercial. So the previous one here, you get what you pay for. They're sort of 10 metre pixels, and it's free. And this one is 20 centimetres, something like that, pixels. Anyone using Ceres on pistachio? Any comments, Ryan?
Yeah, no, it's been fantastic. You need to use it for a little while to sort of keep your benchmark and trends, but it's fantastic.
For irrigation, picking up irrigation issues, or soil, or both?
All of the above.
When there's a line, a red line like this, you know, it's unique to that row. It's an irrigation issue. But yeah, it could be anything. Good stuff. The dry winter, I can't say much more than irrigate. But here's an EnviroScan trace. And we actually had some weed growth in the middle. So that's June, July in the middle of the screen there, where there should be no water use, and the water use started dropping off. We went out and had a look, and there were some weeds around the probe. Sprayed them out. But the point is, we stopped looking at our probes in winter, and so we should. But it cost us an extra irrigation, 2/3 across the page there, and there's still no water use after that irrigation event. It's flatlining until later on in the screen there. But yeah, dry winters, they've happened just recently, and we prefer to have the trace operating in the top half of that green zone. Okay, up in the blue's too wet, in the red's too dry. Prefer to be about halfway up in the top half, not the bottom half, throughout winter. And the other thing we're doing is, the industry trend is daily irrigations. As I mentioned earlier, if we're irrigating daily, do we need this technology? Do we even look at it? Well, here we see an irrigator irrigating daily. In the middle of the screen there is a big rainfall event, but he's irrigating daily, 5 or 6 hours. Stop looking at the data, stop looking at the probe. And late December, over on the right hand side there, missed the point where water use started to take off, and missed the trigger that he should start irrigating, 6 or 7 hours a day, and couldn't make it up. It stayed down in the red there. So the tools that are there, just because we've changed the way we might have irrigated in the past, the tools are still needed and useful. And I guess to finish off, just asked me to talk about fertigation. I think the previous speaker did enough, but we've got a lot of new products out there. We've got river water quality that's changed, maybe changed, but I think the basics are still there, and we've still got to get back to simple things like a jar test to see if these products are going to do something within our irrigation system, such as not diluting, not mixing up properly, being cloudy, and certainly creating potential issues with our irrigation system. A little bit of a plug, we've done a lot of training with almonds in the last couple of years. We're happy to do the same with pistachios, depending on the industry. I think there's a template there that works pretty well, looking at soil systems and scheduling, indoor and outdoor stuff, practical, as well as theory in the practice, and depending on the group and the industry, whether that's an option, that's certainly something we can do in the next couple of years if you want it. And that's about all I've got. Thank you.
Great. Just one or two quick questions, and then we'll move on for afternoon tea. Any questions? Very clear. Thanks very much.